Look, a lot of us have been arguing, I've been arguing in Parliament for quite some time, that of course it's important to make sure that the Palace of Westminster itself is secure, but actually the real risk in many cases would be to an MP in their constituency, whether they're in their surgery or for that matter to their staff in their office. And of course, nobody wants to lose that precious jewel in the British democratic system, which is that unlike an MP in Spain or whatever, you can go and see your MP, you know, in many cases without even making an appointment, just turn up. And every single one of us wants to preserve that. But I think there needs to be a proper risk assessment around the country. I'm aware that especially since November last year, there have been a very large number of individual threats, through from the kind of, you know, stupid child on Twitter through to much more significant issues. And we need to have a proper assessment of that, the proper risk assessment in every constituency.
You've been raising concerns for some months now about the threat to the security of MPs, not really at Westminster, but actually in their constituencies.
There are 43 police forces. Even within police forces, I think they've been reacting very, very differently according to which borough commander it is. So that sometimes two MPs in different constituencies next door to each other have been given conflicting advice. And for that matter, there's no coordination from the centre. There was meant to be, in January, every single MP was meant to be contacted by their borough commander to have some kind of assessment done. I'd be surprised if a fifth of MPs had a contact from their borough commander.
Because I think some senior MPs, there's the House of Commons Commission, you sit on that, it's a cross-party body, I think the Speaker's on it. Some members of that commission have issued some pretty strong warnings to the security agencies, have they? They have been saying, watch out, something could happen.
Look, I've said in terms, an MP will be shot. This will happen. And the truth is, we all know that we can't guarantee that something like this won't happen again, but we need to make sure that we've taken all the proper precautions, not over-the-top precautions, just sensible precautions to maintain that relationship of the MP with his or her constituents, and maintain that in a secure way.
How do you feel that you issued that very strong warning and you've now lost a dear friend and this action wasn't taken?
It's very, very difficult for anybody when they lose a colleague, especially somebody like Joe. And it's always very, very difficult for us to get the policing arrangements right that fit every single circumstance. But I'm just aware that probably every MP in the land will have had, over the years, 5, 6, 7 different forms of death threats, different forms of maybe attacks, and knowing which ones to take really, really seriously, which ones just to ignore, which ones to brush off and so on. That is a really difficult thing to do. And I think, I hope now that all the security services, all the 43 police services in the land will come together and say, you know, we are going to make sure we do this properly.
When you raised these concerns about the security of MPs, was this because you obviously have personal experience of very aggressive social media attacks, or was it more about specific events, and particularly that controversial vote we had on military action in Syria?
Look, there was a lot of stuff immediately after Syria, but to be honest, I mean, I don't know an MP who hasn't ended up with a stalker in prison, or you know, somebody lobbing things through the office window or making some kind of threat or other. But it has been particularly bad in the last few months, in particular for women MPs. And I would hate the idea that there be a young person of real talent out there who is thinking of going into politics who would be frightened of doing so. Of course, you know, you've got to have thick skin in politics. I get that, but you know, often you're making a decision not only for yourself, but also for your family and for the people who work for you. And so, you know, sometimes people might think that we're being overly cautious, but we're not. It's not really about us. It is about a wider set of people.
Obviously you have concerns about the slow response, but on this cross-party commission you sit with other MPs, you sit with government MPs. Do you think the government has been aware of these concerns that you've been talking about?
I know that my opposite number in the government shares many of these concerns as well. I have no beef with the government. It may be that government or the Home Office needs to play a specific role in making sure that there is a proper coordination of risk assessments for all the MPs in the land, and that, for instance, when it is decided that every borough commander should get in touch with all the MPs in their patch, that does actually happen. Because otherwise I think there's a real danger that things will fall through the net.